So for today's video, we're going to be talking about percents. Now, percents is more or less a form of a decimal where it's out of 100. And so to rewrite a decimal as a percent, we actually move the decimal point 2 spots to the right. I'm going to show you in a couple of examples here, and I think as we go along, it'll make quite a bit of sense. So I'm going to have an example of 0.54. And in order to convert this to a percentage, which we use the percent sign afterwards, all I need to do is move my decimal point 2 spots, 1, 2, to the right. And then my percent in this case is 54%. Another example, a little bit more complicated, if I have 0.0314 and I want to convert this to a percentage, I'm going to move the decimal point only 2 spots to the right, 1, 2, and I'm going to have my answer is now going to be 3.14%. So if you want to convert decimals to a percentage, all you need to remember is just move the decimal point 2 spots over, and then you have your answer. And just add the percentage sign at the end. Now, flip side of this, suppose we now want to take a percentage and convert it to a fraction. Okay? What you have to do is you have to take whatever percent value you have and multiply it by 1 over 100. So in our example here, let's say we have 43%, and I want to convert this to a fraction. I'm going to have 43, and I'm going to multiply it by 1 over 100. Now keep in mind that 43 I can rewrite as 43 over 1, and when I multiply this by 1 over 100, I'm going to end up with 43 over 100. And 43 over 100 is simplified, so my answer is 43 out of 100. You should simplify your answer if you can. So in our next example, let's do one more. We'll have, I'm going to go down to the new page, we're going to have 58%. And I want to convert this to a fraction. I'm going to take 58. I'm going to put it over 1 anyways, and I'm going to multiply this also by 1 over 100. Okay? And so 58 times 1 is 58. 1 times 100 is 100. And now I can simplify. 58 I know is 2 times 29. 29 is a prime number. 100 is 2 times 50. And so now I can cancel out the 2's that are in the numerator and the denominator, and my answer is 29 over 50. And so in this case, 58% can be converted to 29 over 50 as a fraction. Okay, the last thing, actually we'll talk about 2 more things. We'll talk about now rewriting a percent as a decimal. And if we look at the very beginning of this video, we talked about moving the decimal point 2 spots to the right. Well, in this case, we just move it 2 spots to the left. So if I have 53%, and I want to convert it to be a decimal, I'm going to write my number out first. I'll have 53. And then keep in mind the decimal is behind the 3. And I'll move this now 2 spots to the left. 1, 2. And so my answer is going to be 0.53. Or you can say it as 0.53. Personally, I prefer 0.53. Another example is, let's say we now have 257%. So I'm going to go ahead and write that out. To convert it from a percent to a decimal, I'm going to have 257. My decimal point is after the 7. So I'm going to move 2 spots to the left, 1, 2. And I'm going to have 2.57. And it makes sense because 257 has 2 100s in it. So this has 2 100s, right? And so when we're looking at a decimal, we need to have 2 wholes. Whereas in decimal format, these 100s represent a whole number. Okay, so 2.57%. All right. Last thing we're going to talk about is rewriting a fraction as a percent. And so in order to rewrite a fraction as a percent, let's say we have a fraction 2/5. If you want to write this as a percentage, you need to multiply your fraction by 100. And then whatever answer you get is going to have a percentage sign at the end. So 2/5 times 100. I know 100 is 100 over 1. And I know I can simplify here because 100 has a factor of 5 in it. So I'm actually going to use red for this. What's left over here is 20. And so 2 times 20 now is 40. And so my answer is 40%. Another way you can think about it is 2/5 written as a decimal is 0.4. And then that would also get you to 40%. And so in the next video, we'll be talking about examples of rewriting percents as decimals, fractions, and then fractions as decimals and as percents, so on and so forth. It'll be a whole bunch of rewriting.